Good day, friends. It is me, HLModTech, and today we're going to make parts for a skateboard. So let's get cracking. Friends, we are starting on my website, HLModTech.com, and that is because I want to mention tons of amazing lessons that you can check out, and then also the sweet built-in messaging tool where you can add your question, comment, or suggestion. Friends, I mentioned that today because that is the exact way that I received today's request. So step one, friends, is to get to Tinkercad, hit that plus sign, and we're going to make a brand new 3D design. I'm going to name my design skateboard, and I always put my initials after it as well. So friends, we are going to try and build reasonably accurate trucks. So what I did was I typed in skateboard trucks diagram. I've got a picture of it. You can see there's a base, there's a part that spins, there's a locking nut. This is the swivel that allows the trucks to work. We need a post and then the place where they screw on, and then we also lock it up top. Let's take this thought and go back to Tinkercad. The first thing we're going to add is a plate. Now when you bring this out, friends, I'm going to recommend doing shift stretch. I want to type the number 30 down here so it's 30 in every direction. But then I'm going to tell you that a good size for this is 2. If we bounce back to our next design, maybe you can spot that this is a trapezoid that's got a chunk cut out of it. So watch this. Back to our project. Let's search for trapezoid. When you type trap, they will all pop up, and we want this one right here. When you bring it out, we need to rotate it 90 degrees. Notice if you stay inside the circle, it goes to those. If you go outside with your mouse, then it goes 1 degree at a time. So we want to snap to -90. And real quickly, I need you to type 30, 22, 12, and 10. And then wait for it to render. And then, of course, select the 2 of them, choose a line, make the red one the boss, and do center, center, just like that. Now the next part was to cut a wedge into this. Well, friends, that's super simple. We'll come back out here to the roof, spin it 90 degrees. Notice I'm staying inside the shape, and then let's flip it so it's the other direction. Let's make it a hole, and then pick how you're going to cut. So if I bring this over and I lift it up, remember you can also do control up and down. I'm going to just custom shrink these till I get the shape I want. So I'm using the black handles as I adjust it, finding a measurement that I think looks pretty cool. Let's go back real quick and look at the real one. So notice it's a little further back than it is forward. So I'm going to do that by just going like this. If I stretch this back, there it is a little behind 0. You can tell by the gray that it's going to cut out. I'm going to raise it up 1 chunk. And then just because I'm pretty fancy-dancy, I'm going to rotate it a couple degrees too. And when you've got those exactly the way you want, you can do Shift-Select and Group. After a moment, you can take a look at it and see if you like it. Watch this. If you don't like it, like I think that's too pointy, I can double-click. And if I just stretch this, it makes it completely different. So you can adjust it after you build it until you get the exact shape you want. How cool is that? Friends, let's bounce back to our image. You can see I opened a second image. On this end, we've got a pivot and then something that comes down into the pivot. And on this end, we're going to have the pin that it goes in. So let's go back. So on our design, let's cut out the hole and let's make the pivot. First, I'm going to put the work plane on this side. I'm going to bring out the cylinder hole. I'm going to just hold down Shift and shrink it. And then I want to do one that is size 4. I'm going to make it longer. I'm going to align it. So let's do Shift Select and choose a line. Now I got lucky and just nailed it, but we want to put it right there and then push it in so we can cut out that hole. I'm going to do Shift Select and Group. And now we've got the place where the bolt will come in. Now over here we're going to do work plane. And we're going to make a pivot. I'm going to do this pivot with the tube. When you bring the tube out, I'm going to just type a radius of 3. I'm going to do a wall thickness of 1.7. Let's see how that looks. See how there's a little dent in the middle? I'm just going to shrink it down to size 1. Let's do Shift Select and Align. And then we want to align it to the middle. And then I'm going to use the arrow keys to move it back to the spot I want. All right, friends, now that we got that pivot, let's see what we put on the pivot. See this thing right here that's kind of wide and then gets skinny? I have got a super slick trick for you. Make sure your work plane is on that gray part. Make sure you go to search. And friends, there is something called the pineapple. If you type Pine A, boom, you will get the pineapple. It will land this way. We need to rotate it 90 degrees. Once you do that, hit D to drop. And you can see that it arranges pretty slick. You can play with this curvature as much as you want. I am just going to do Alt-Shift, and I'm going to shrink it, do D for drop, and I'm going to do Shift, Alt-Shift a little more, and D to drop so that it's in that place. I'm going to use the arrows, and then I'm going to call that my pivot. You can shrink it, adjust it. You can play with these to see what they do. It is really easy to make a pretty awesome part that you can then drop in that place. And friends, now I'm going to align it by doing Shift, Select, and Align. And if I choose middle and middle, that pivot is now in place. You can have fun adjusting it till you're exactly happy. I'm going to pick a different color just so it stands out. That, my friends, I think is pretty darn slick. Alright friends, let's put the work plane back on the ground. Remember, all you do is hit W for work plane and click out on that edge. Now we may adjust the size of this later, but right now, let's return to our image and let's build the hanger. If you look really quickly, we've got cylinder, cylinder. I'm going to use a half roof. I don't know if I'm going to round this out, but let's do cylinder, cylinder, and half roof real quick. Make sure your work plane's flat. Let's close this. Bring out the cylinder. Let's start by making it smooth. Notice if you stay inside the shape, it snaps easy. If you come outside the shape, it's 1 degree at a time. So we want to stay inside the shape. Then we're going to hold down Shift and squish. And I'm going to tell you a good size for this axle is 3 and press enter. We're going to make it longer than our truck. So I'm going to tell you the good number is 45. I'm going to make it gray just so that makes it look pretty cool. And then I'm going to use this as the connector for the wheels. So this is the one that they will screw onto. Are you ready for this, friends? We are just going to do Control D, set it out, make it shorter, because this is going to be the piece in the middle. Now do Alt-Shift, and instead of 3, I want you to type 5, and boom, you've got the 2 main parts of your truck. Do Align, click on it, do Center, and Center. Bam! You have just built those 2 pieces. Now remember, friends, we're bringing out this half roof. If you bring out the half roof, we do want to stand it up. We're going to keep its measurements, but we're going to make it 4 thick. D for drop, so it's on top. Bring it into place, and then we are going to pull it out just a little bit more. And we do want to align it, so I'm doing Shift Select, Align. I want it to be aligned vertically, so I'm looking at it from an angle. And bang! With that one being the master, now it's in place. Let's make it the gray. You can pick a fancier gray. I'm flexible. It's kind of nice to have them mix and match. Let's return to our images. You can see that we have just built this piece. Now we need to cut out the hole where it goes through. To do that, we're simply going to put the work plane right here. Bring out the whole cylinder. It's too large. Let's start by doing the sides though. Let's do Shift Shrink, and then I'm going to tell you a good number is 10 and press enter. Move that into place. You can align them by doing Shift Select, click on it, and boom, I already had it there. You may have to click that button, of course. And I'm going to do 3 clicks down, so 1, 2, 3. All right, so that one's going to be the first indent, and then we're going to do one more. So click on that piece and do Control D. Make it a lot taller, but then hold down Alt and Shift and make it skinnier because it's going to be the hole that we push through. Make sure it goes down below. Grab those 3 parts, friends, and make sure they're all aligned. And hit Group. And you have just made your awesome front of your truck. Now currently we need to flip this around. So all we're going to do is hit Flip. Boom. And then let's move it into place. I'm going to put the work plane back on the ground, and then I'm going to do Shift Select, so I've got the green one and the gray one. And if we do Align and make the green one the boss, that should line it up pretty sweet. After I get it lined up that way, I'm going to just do Control up to raise it up. Notice if you ever make a mistake, just use the undo button, which is Control Z. And check it out, friends, that's starting to look pretty sweet. Now that you got these two pieces in place, you can click back here and put your work plane on this cylinder, and you can do Alt-Shift to get that the right size for what you just built. And if you need to be more precise, don't forget you can change your nudge to a different number as you tinker and get the exact shape you want for that pivot. I'm going to put it back to 1 millimeter. I'm going to put the work plane back on the ground, and let's check out the next part of our image. Our next step is to snag some bushings and add a washer. To add the washer, we're going to put the work plane right here, bring out a tube. I'm going to tell you that good numbers are 3 again, and this time we're going to type 2 again, and then if you make it really thin, you can see if you like it. I'm going to type the number 0.2 because I want it to be that skinny. I'm going to hold down Shift and click the green one, choose a line, make the green one the master. Let's look at it from a corner so we can see those dots. That's the one we want. Let's hide this, and I'm going to do F for fit view. When we spin around, we can see how well that lines up. Pretty good, but the hole was not right. Let's change that wall thickness to 1.5. You can see that's a little better, and now we can see we were missing. If I change my nudge to 0.1, I can nudge that up there so it fits absolutely perfect. Make it a different color. I'm going to go with a black this time. And then, friends, with that work plane in the same spot, we're going to make a bushing. Now, I just brought out a cone. If we do fit view, we can see the cone. This is so slick. Tell you type 4. I'm going to tell you to type a top radius of 3. And I'm going to tell you to type a height of 2 and press enter. Friends, can you see that is the bushing idea? Now, our measurements were not perfect. So instead of a base radius of 3, let's try 3.2. Let's tie a top radius of 2.5, and let's do a height of 3. I do want to let you know that if you ever play with the handles, it breaks these measurements, but I'm really recommend you just change your numbers right here. I'm going to make that black, and then we need to cut a hole in it. Since we have the work plane here, if we bring out the whole cylinder, it lands in that perfect spot. Let's make the side 64. And then, friends, we want to do Alt-Shift again, and then the number you're going to type is 2, and press enter. Stretch it nice and long. Shift, select, and do a line. Center, center. And we want to do the top. Now, friends, if we look at that from a side, we can grab those two shapes and group them. And how slick is that? Now we need 2 of these, friends, so just do Control D, Control up arrow, so you're raising it up above. And the second one flips that way. How slick is that? Now this one you can adjust if you want to make it look a little different. Just like that. Now that it's finished, it's in place. If we do show all, you can see all our parts now appear. Friends, real quickly, notice it's small side down, big side up. Big side down, up. So let's go back here and fix these real quick. Need that one so it's small side down. So with work plane this way, we're just using flip and bingo. This one is correct. And now we need to rotate this so that it matches. So if I just do this, you can see that I can solve it pretty darn quick, 1 degree at a time. That's pretty sharp. Now let's line up the holes. I'm just going to nudge this forward till that fits pretty good. I'm going to hit work plane on this little spot right here, and if I do D to drop, that'll now be at the correct height. I can take this and stretch it to the correct height. Another cool trick is if I do W, I can drop it to right there. D to drop, and now I can just stretch this so it fits where I want as well. The holes are lined up. If you want to make these a little larger, if we make sure the work plane is on the correct side, and now you can do shift stretch to get them to the exact size you want. Notice if I put the work plane inside there, you can make sure you drop it to the exact piece too. Friends, I'm going to put the work plane down on the ground. That's pretty darn awesome. Friends, if we check back at our design, notice this kingpin comes in from underneath, and we need to add these holes. We need to fix that underneath part. Let me show you how easy we can do this. If we go back to our shape, let's hide these top pieces so they're not in the way. You could also do Control H. And let's hide the bottom piece. And let's just do ungroup. And we need 2 of these to cut out. First, put your work plane on top. Then do Control D. And then push the second one down below. If we look underneath, you can see it poking out. Now we're going to take and stretch it. So all we're doing is Alt-Shift so it goes around the middle. And make it some size that is bigger. Notice it popped out. We're going to push it way down. If we hit T for transparent, let's make sure that's connecting. So notice I got to push it up just a little. So now, friends, we've got the holes for our kingpin. Watch this. Click on the first one, hold Shift, click on the second one. Do Control D, and let's do Shift Nudge to move that one out. And make it a solid. Now let's come back to the holes and group them. Let's do T to make that back a solid. Notice how slick it looks. And then, friends, this is one of my favorite parts. Let's put the work plane up here and let's turn this into the kingpin. So I'm going to stretch it way up and shrink it way down. And then I'm going to stretch it way up. And then I want this to be a tiny bit smaller. So make sure your nudge is 0.1. Do your Alt-Shift. And let's check. Right now it's at 4. So I'm going to click and make it 3.2. I'm going to take those 2 pieces and I'm going to group them. And I'm going to make them a darker gray. And then remember those shift nudges? So I'm just going to do shift nudge back until it's in place. When we do show all, you have now got your kingpin in place. And that, my friends, is pretty darn slick. Friends, let's take one last peek back here. We need to make these nuts. Notice they are hexagons. Watch how slick this is. So, friends, bring out that polygon. I'm going to tell you a bevel of 1 is pretty darn sweet. I'm going to tell you to do Alt-Shift. And see how it says 17? We're going to take it down to 6. Squish it so it's the thickness you want. Get it so it's centered. Let's pick a color that's pretty darn cool. And then we need to cut the hole in it. So I'm going to move this out so it's aligned. We can do Shift Select to make sure it's aligned. And we want middle and middle. Now to cut the hole, we're going to do the work plane in that same spot. We're just going to bring out the whole peg. If we do Shift Squish on this, I think the number we want is 3. We'll make it longer. I'm going to do Shift Select on that pin underneath and do a line. Make the pin underneath the boss and choose middle. Let's zoom in so we can find that other hole. And middle. Now we can click on the pin and push it through. Make sure that these are both aligned, so I'm doing Shift Align again. We got this one, we want that one, and when we hit group, we will have cut out our nut and we can push it into place. And do one more line. Bingo. Let's put the work plane back on the ground and let me show you how to reuse this. If we do Control D, we can move it over to the spot we want, and 90 degrees is the exact right number that way. But then you need to bring it over to your shape and you need to manually find the number of degrees to rotate. Ours will probably be different, but you can see that 12 was pretty slick for mine. I'm going to do Control down and move it into place. You can see that with just a little bit of nudging, I can get it where it needs to be. I'm going to do Control down with that, and that's pretty sweet. This also is a good way to double check and see if you've got it really aligned, and you can do those 1 degree nudges until you're exactly happy. We do want one on both sides, so do Control D, and then I'm going to do Shift Select, and I want to move it all the way to this edge right here. Holy moly, friends, not exactly my fastest tutorial, but oh my gosh, we have just built pretty darn accurate skateboard trucks. How cool is that? Friends, I want to send a shout out to Kylie for asking for it. Oh my gosh, what a fun project, and just once again proving how much you can do by looking at an image and just building things piece by piece. Friends, of course, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please also hit that share button so more people can learn about HLModTech. Of course, if you got a question, comment, or suggestion, add it down below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Smash that subscribe button. And last but not least, hit that notification bell if you want to be the first to know when there's a brand new video from me, HLModTech. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.